Business owners, before you hire a videographer for your next mastermind, conference, seminar, retreat, or private event, you need to understand something. You're not hiring somebody to press record. You're hiring somebody to capture proof. Proof that you have authority. Proof that people are in the room. Proof that your event was valuable. Proof that other people should pay to be in the room next time. This is where most business owners mess up. They spend tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars on the venue, the speakers, the flights, the hotel, the food, the team, the production, the branding, the experience. And then they try to save money on the one thing that can actually multiply the event after it is over. The content. That is backwards because the event only happens once, but the content from the event can sell for months. It can build trust for months. It can create authority for months. It can bring in new clients, new partners, new opportunities, and new buyers long after everyone has gone home. So in this video, I'm gonna break down the exact content blueprint every serious mastermind needs. And if you are a business owner, send this to the videographer you're thinking about hiring, because this is the bare minimum your event coverage should include. Number one, your presentations need to be recorded the right way. This is the foundation. If your speaker presentations are not captured properly, you already lost a huge piece of value. And when I say recorded properly, I'm not just talking about putting one camera in the back of the room and hoping for the best. That is amateur. You need clean audio. Clean audio is non-negotiable, man. People will forgive an okay visual before they forgive bad audio. And if the audio is echoey, distorted, too loud, too low, or full of room noise, the content becomes almost unusable. So the first thing your videographer needs to know is, how are they capturing the audio? Are they pulling it directly from the soundboard? Are they using backup audio? Are they miking up the presenters? Are they testing levels before even the event starts? Because once the speaker starts talking, you cannot go back and fix the moment. Then you need the right camera angles. You need one wide shot that shows the room, the audience, the stage, and the authority of you speaking in front of people. That wide shot matters because it shows scale. It shows energy. It shows proof that people actually showed up. It makes the viewer watching online think, wow, this person is not just talking to a camera in an empty room. The wide shot matters because it shows scale, it shows energy, it shows proof that people actually showed up. It makes the viewer watching online think, okay, this person is not just talking to a camera in an empty room. They are leading a room full of people. Now that is authority. Then you need a tighter angle off to the side following the presenter. This is the clip angle. This is the angle that makes the speaker look powerful. This is the angle your team can use for Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, LinkedIn, ads, sales pages, and promo videos. This is where the gear and systems really mattered. One thing I highly recommend is using the DJI RS5 stabilizer with the AI tracking feature that it has. This is something I've been using this past year, and honestly, it is incredible. You can set up the camera, draw a box around the speaker, and the stabilizer will track them as they move from left to right, from the stage to the main floor, or anywhere inside of the speaking area. So instead of having a static camera just sitting there, the camera is actually following the presenter and keeping them perfectly centered. That is extremely important because speakers move, they walk, they interact with the audience, they go from one side of the stage to the other. Sometimes they come off stage completely. And if your camera's not following the movement, you either lose the shot or the presenter starts drifting out of frame. But with the AI tracking, the camera can continue to follow the speaker and keep the shot usable. This is an absolute game changer for event coverage, especially for masterminds, seminars, live presentations, where the speaker is moving with energy. Now, does this replace having a real operator? Not always. It gives you another safety angle. It gives you another way to make sure the speaker stays framed properly. Now, I want you to think about this. If you're gonna have a operator, a videographer, just stay behind the camera, stay behind the tripod, and follow you from left to right for hours on end, you have to understand like the level of focus an individual needs to have. They just won't do it. So you're gonna have missed shots. You're gonna have sometimes where the speaker goes and then you see the camera pan to follow the speaker. Humans, we make mistakes. So if you want to avoid those mistakes, is something I would highly recommend. You need systems like this because your content cannot depend on luck. It has to be engineered. There's always a battle of, hey, how should I get this recorded? Should it be recorded in vertical or should it get recorded in horizontal? A trick that I will give you guys is record in horizontal so you can repurpose this on landing pages, on YouTube, long form content, but make sure it is framed in vertical. So you're having the best of both worlds. We're living in a vertical content world. So when your editor goes back to cut clips, they should be able to crop in and still have the speaker framed properly. That means the videographer needs to be thinking about content distribution while they're recording, not after. Now, that's the difference between someone who records events and someone who understands the content strategy behind the event. Number 2, you need to consider a live stream setup. Now, not every single mastermind needs a live stream. If it's more like a private networking dinner, a small intimate room, or an experience that's not built around presentations, then maybe it doesn't really make sense. But if you're having speakers, presenters, panels, workshops, or you're really dialing in on specific topics, I'd highly recommend having a live stream setup. Because yes, the main goal is to sell tickets for people to attend in person. You want people in the room, you want the energy, you want the networking, you want the experience. But the reality is, not everyone who wants to be there can physically make it. Some people have schedule conflicts. Some people live in another state. Some people are international. Some people cannot fly in, but they still want the value. So instead of losing those people completely, you can sell a live stream ticket, even if it's only $100 to join virtually. Now you've created an extra revenue stream from people who were never going to be in the room anyway. And more importantly, they still get to learn, participate, and experience the value of the event. So live stream is not just about putting the event online, it's about expanding the reach and the revenue of the event. And this is also why the technical setup matters. If people are paying to attend virtually, the audio has to be clean. The angles have to be taken care of. The camera switching has to feel intentional. No one wants to pay for a live stream where they can barely hear the speaker or where the camera is just sitting in the back of the room with a terrible angle. So before you hire a videographer, ask them, can you also handle a live stream? Because if you have speakers and presentations happening, that one setup can help you make more money from people who cannot fly in. Number 3, and this is a non-negotiable, photos need to be delivered fast. I'm talking about immediately. Now, this is something that business owners need to understand. Not every videographer is also a photographer. Just because someone can shoot video does not mean they know how to capture great photos. Those are two different skill sets entirely. So when you're planning your event coverage, you need to make sure every role is covered. If your video guy can also take great photos, amazing. But if not, hire a dedicated photographer because photos are way too important to be an afterthought. Now, for me personally, I am told I am a Swiss Army knife. I'm a one-man band. I can capture the videos, I can take the photos, I get the drone shots, I can capture the B-roll, I can set up the podcast, I can handle the different pieces of content because honestly, God just gave me the talent and I do my best to steward it correctly. But not everyone can do that. And that is something you have to be honest about when you're hiring for your event. If you hire one person who can only do video and you expect them to also capture photos, testimonials, B-roll, drone shots, the live stream, and everything else, understand that something is going to suffer. That is why you need to either hire someone who has the full skill set or bring in multiple people who can each own their individual role. Because the goal is not to just have someone with a camera in the room. The goal is to make sure every important part of the event is captured correctly. Now, when it comes to photos, speed matters. I'm not talking about 2 weeks later, not a month later, not even when the event has already ended. Photos need to be delivered during the event or immediately after while the momentum is still hot. And this is one of the biggest things that I guarantee you don't understand. Photos are not just memories. Photos are marketing assets. When people are at your event and they receive a fire photo of themselves, what do? They post it, they tag you, they tag the event, they share it on their story, they send it to their team. They make you look bigger. They make the room look more valuable. They create social proof in real time. Now that, my friends, is true momentum. But when you deliver those photos 2 weeks later, the emotion is completely gone. The event is old news. People are back to their regular life. The window has closed. So your photographer should not just be taking photos, they should have a system for fast delivery. At minimum, you should be getting edited photos during the event or immediately after each day. And if you really want to level it up, there are apps that I use in my workflows, in my systems, that allows me to send photos directly to the people within seconds. So let me break this down for you. I take a photo of someone, right? They scan my QR code, they put their contact info, they take a selfie. Now with AI facial rec, every single photo that I take of them throughout the whole event, the system recognizes them. Then it sends the photo directly to them in their own private gallery. Now they can go ahead and post while they're still at the event. And that is absolute power, because now every attendee becomes a distribution channel. Every person in the room becomes part of the marketing team. And that's what most people miss. They think the content is just for after the event. No, the content is part of the event. It amplifies the experience while it's still happening. So if you want to know what app I use for that, comment down below, DM me privately, and I'll put you guys on game. Because again, photos are not just memories, they are momentum. Number 4, you need B-roll. Now, let me explain what B-roll actually is, because this is where a lot of business owners undervalue content. B-roll is the footage that sells the experience without needing someone to explain it. It's the cinematic shots, the slow motion moments, the room shots, the speaker walking on stage, the audience reacting, the handshakes, the networking, the details, the energy, the environment, the moments that make your event look valuable. Because your presentations, yes, they show the information, but your B-roll shows the experience. And this is the type of footage that can be used in multiple ways. B-roll is what makes your highlight video feel powerful. You cannot build a strong recap video with only presentation footage. That is going to feel flat. You need movement, emotion, you need texture, you need people walking in, people clapping, people laughing, people taking notes, people connecting, people reacting to what is being said. This is what makes the highlight video feel alive. B-roll can also become standalone content. Let's say you have a slow motion clip of yourself walking on stage, or a clip of you speaking in front of a packed room, or a clip of you shaking hands with someone important, or a clip of the room watching you teach. You can take that one clip, slow it down, put some music behind it, add some text. You can now post it as your story, post it on your reels, and now that becomes content. Now that becomes authority. Now that becomes a positioning piece. It doesn't always need to be you talking directly to the camera. Sometimes the visual itself communicates value. Sometimes the footage says, this person is important. This room has energy. This event is real. This is where serious people gather. That is what B-roll does. It gives your brand visual proof. You need shots of the room, the speakers, the audience, the sponsors, the handshakes, the networking, the reactions, the note-taking, the detail, the food, the check-in, the badges, the signage, the energy, the conversations in the hallway, the moments people don't even realize that are happening. That is what makes the event feel alive, because people don't just buy information. They buy proximity, they buy access, they buy environment, they buy the feeling of being around other people who are serious. So B-roll needs to communicate that. It needs to show the room in a way that makes someone watching online say, dang, okay, next time they do this, I need to be there. That's the whole game. Your event content should create fear of missing out, not in a fake way, in a real way. Because if the event was actually valuable, the content should make that value obvious. And this is where a lot of videographers miss it. They only focus on the speaker, but they forget to capture the world around the speaker. The audience is part of the story. The room is part of the story. The networking is part of the story. The details are part of the story. The energy is part of the story. The B-roll is what turns your event from just a recording into a full experience. So make sure you guys get the B-roll on point. Number 5, you need testimonials. This might be one of the most important parts of the entire event. It's one thing for you to get on camera and talk about your product. It's one thing for you to talk about your service. It's one thing for you to say that the event is valuable. But when other people can say it for you, it hits completely different, because now it's not just you promoting yourself. It's real people sharing real experiences, real transformations, real results, real emotion, and that's what creates trust. You already have clients, your audience, your buyers, your students, your partners, your community in the room. That is the best time to capture social proof. You want different people of different walks of life, different industries, different backgrounds, different cultures, different ages, different experiences. Because when you have different people sharing how your event, your community, your product, or your service has helped them, you're not just speaking to one type of person anymore. You're now able to connect with multiple groups of people through their story. That is what I mean when I tell you, you have to move through people. Someone watching may not connect with you directly at first, but they may connect with the person giving the testimonial. They may see someone who looks like them, someone who talks like them, someone who came from a similar situation, someone who had the same problem, someone who had the same doubt, someone who got the result they want. And now that testimonial becomes the bridge. Now that, my friend, is powerful, because the right testimonial does not just say, yeah, the event was great. The right testimonial says, I was in this situation, I came here, I experienced this, I learned this, I changed this, and now I see the value. That is what people believe. That is what creates trust. That is what creates conversations. Most business owners wait too long to get testimonials. They say, well, we'll follow up later. No, you will not. People get busy, people forget, people lose emotion, and 2 weeks later, the testimonial doesn't hit the same. But at the event, the energy is all-time high. The transformation feels fresh. They are around other winners. They are feeling the value in real time. That is when you need to put them in front of a camera and ask the right questions. Why did you come to this event? What was your biggest takeaway? What changed for you? What would you tell someone who is thinking about coming next time? What results have you gotten from being in this community? What made this event worth it for you? What problem did this help you solve? What would you say to someone who is on the fence? Those answers now become assets. They can now go to your website. They can go to your landing page. They can go in your ads. They can go on Instagram. They can go on YouTube. They can go in your email campaigns. They can be used by your sales teams. They can be used in your webinar. They can be used to sell the next event. Man, I want you guys to understand, testimonials are not just content. They are conversion tools. They are trust builders. They are proof that what you are doing actually works. And if you're already paying to bring everyone into one room, it makes no sense to let all of that social proof walk out the door without you capturing it. This is what I mean when I say your event needs to be engineered for return on investment. Because if one testimonial helps you close one high-ticket client, one future buyer, one new attendee, or one serious opportunity, that testimonial can pay for itself. So when you're planning your event coverage, testimonials cannot be an afterthought. You need a system, you need a clean place to record them, you need good lighting, you need clean audio, you need someone who knows how to ask the right questions. And you need to make it easy for people to step in, share the experience, and get right back into the event. The goal is to capture proof that the event created impact, proof that people are getting real transformations, proof that the brand is bigger than just the person hosting it. That is how you turn real reactions into assets that can sell for months. As the business owner, you do not just tell the videographer, hey, can you grab testimonials? Bro, that's too broad. Because now you're depending on them to know exactly what to ask, who to ask, and how to pull the story out of people. Instead, I need you guys to engineer the result. Give your videographer a document with at least 10 testimonial questions that you want asked. That way, they're not just winging it. They're pulling out the exact information that you need. They're asking questions that lead to better answers. They're helping you capture testimonials that are actually useful. So instead of asking generic questions, hey, how's the event? Ask better questions like, what problem were you dealing with before you came here? What made you decide to attend? What was the biggest breakthrough you had? What result did you get from being in this room? What would you tell someone who is thinking about coming next time? What did you learn that you can implement immediately? What made this event different? What changed your perspective? What part of the experience gave you the most value? Now the videographer has a roadmap. The testimonial doesn't take 30 minutes. It should take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And now you can capture a lot more testimonials throughout the event without slowing everything down. Another piece of advice I'll give you is be specific about who do you want testimonials from. Don't just leave it random. Create what I call a hit list. A list of specific people you want on camera. Your best clients, the biggest success stories, the highest level attendees, the people who represent your ideal customer, the people who got a real transformation, the people who can speak clearly about the value of the room, because you don't want to waste time grabbing testimonials from people who don't really fit your demographic, don't have a strong story, or do not make sense for the message you're trying to communicate. Move your videographer with intention. Help them maximize the event, give them the hit list, give them the questions, give them direction, because when you engineer success down to the finest detail, you do not just walk away with random interviews. You walk away with liquid gold, video gold, real social proof that can sell for months. If you guys are receiving value up until this point, comment down below, like this video, send this video to your fellow business owners, the next videographer. Get this video out there because I'm giving you guys a full blueprint on how to have a successful mastermind event. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into number 6. You need a podcast setup. This one right here is an absolute cheat code. If high-level people are already in the room, maximize those conversations. Like for real, I want you to think about it. You already paid for the venue. You already paid for the audience. You already paid to bring people together. You already have the speakers, the clients, the investors, the entrepreneurs, the operators, the experts all in one place. Why would you not create long-form content with them? A podcast setup at an event lets you capture conversations that would almost be impossible to schedule later. People are already there. They're already dressed. They're already in the right mindset. They're already talking business. They're already around the right people. Now you take those conversations and turn them into content. One podcast can become a full YouTube video. It can become 5 to 10 short form clips. It can become quote graphics. It can become newsletter content. It can become sales content. It can be a reason to follow up with that person after the event. And look, I'll give you a real life example. Last year, I did a real estate event with a full Spanish speaking crowd, right? There had to be at least 1,000 to 2,000 people in that room. It was a massive event, something in the real estate space, right? So there's tons of energy, tons of entrepreneurs, tons of people who were there to learn, network, and grow. Then on the last day, Ryan Pineda pulled up and gave his presentation. Now, most people will have just recorded the presentation, grabbed a few clips, and maybe got some B-roll and called it a day. But this is where you have to think different. When you have someone like Ryan Pineda in the room, you have to maximize that moment. So after he finished speaking, I was able to grab him, pull him to the side, grab the host of the event, and set up a podcast conversation right there. Now, think about how valuable that is. Ryan Pineda himself charges, I'd say, at least over $10,000 to sit down and do a podcast, because we were already in the environment, because the setup was already there, because the moment was already engineered. He gave us about 30 minutes. Now, that is the power of having a podcast setup at your event. You're not just hoping content happens, you're creating the environment for content to happen. And when the environment's already built, high-level people are more likely to say yes, because Now it does not feel like a whole separate production. It's not this one big old inconvenience. It's not, hey, can we schedule something next month? No. They're already there. The cameras are already ready. The audio is ready. The hosts are already ready. The energy is already there. So it becomes easy for them to sit down for 20 to 30 minutes and create something extremely valuable. That is what I mean by engineering the atmosphere. You are creating the conditions for these moments to happen. Because if you try to get the same person on a podcast later, good luck. Now you're dealing with calendars, assistants, fees, travel, scheduling, follow-ups, back and forth. But when they're already in the room, you have a window. And if you are prepared, you can capture that window. That one conversation can become a full YouTube video, like I said earlier. It can become short form clips. It can become authority content. It can become promotional material for the next event. It can become proof that high-level people are connected to your brand. That is why a podcast setup is so powerful. A smart business owner does not look at the event as 1 or 2 days. They look at the event as a content engine. And a podcast setup is one of the easiest ways to pull more value out of the room. So instead of letting those conversations disappear, create a setup where you can capture them. It doesn't always have to be a full-blown studio, but it needs to look clean, it needs to sound good, it needs to feel intentional, and it needs to be easy enough for the guests to sit down, talk, create valuable content, and then dip. That's how you turn your event into a media platform. Now, I'm gonna give you some extra game. You can also bring that podcast conversation on stage. Now you're double dipping. You get the speaker, you get the podcast style conversation, you get to ask the questions your community actually cares about, and then you can even open it up for a Q&A with the audience. Now your audience gets direct access to the speaker, and you get another valuable piece of content for the same moment. That is how you maximize the room. That is how you maximize the speaker. That is how you maximize the event. All right, so do me a solid. Like this video, drop a comment down below, and send this to the business owners or the videographers who needs to hear it. Because if you're spending real money to put people in a room, do not let that money go to waste. Maximize the moment. Number 7, you need a highlight recap video. For every single event that you do, you need a recap video. This is the final byproduct that crystallizes that moment. This is the video that shows people what actually happened. This is the highlight that makes the event feel real after it's already over. And this is the video that gives everyone who attended something to repost, something to comment on, something to share, something to relive. Now, a highlight recap video is not just random clips thrown together with music. That is where a lot of people mess this up. A real highlight recap video should tell the story of the event. You want the B-roll, the drone shots, the speaker, the audience, the network, the emotions. And if you can get sound bites from the testimonials, from the podcast conversations, or the speakers talking about the event, now you can use the B-roll as supporting visuals to tell that story. That is when the video starts to hit different, because now it's not just visuals, it has message, it has emotion, it has social proof, it has context. Let me show you an example of what I'm talking about. Back in May, we did an event at Chateau on the ocean, and this is a great example of what a proper highlight recap video should feel like.
Drone show that was out of this world.
Jet skis, fire shows, the most amazing food I've actually been able to experience, and it's in a $40 million house.
We're here to bring so much light to this planet, to transform the world status, to go to the next level of evolution.
I'm one of the original co-founders of the Grow blockchain and have loved my time at the Chateau on the ocean.
This weekend beats the majority of events that I've attended in my lifetime.
God all day, we move different. Let's go! Let's go!
Master Chef food, mini golf, billiards, private beach in the back, jet skis, seaplane, gala dinner event, live entertainment. It's phenomenal.
billion-dollar speakers that have really brought a lot of insight to blockchain for myself, and just awesome experience getting to network with everybody. The community here has been just above and beyond.
Blockchain technology, AI, nodes, it's all new to me, but tremendous training. It's really transforming my thinking, how to run my business, how to do things in a remarkable way.
But here, every single person I talked to was doing something, building something, adding value to my life, to the things that we were doing, and I never went to my room the entire time.
And it's unbelievable that these guys are at the top tier of their career and they're willing to pour in. And they're just like, yes, let's network, let's build, let's continue to grow, let's continue to sell. And let's build this ecosystem that America needs to bring everything back for what it's built.
So that right there is what I mean by a highlight recap video. Like, it's amazing. You feel the emotion, right? But understand what went to that video. You need the B-roll, you need the environment, you need the people, you need the sound bites, you need the emotion, you need the whole thing packaged in a way that makes somebody watching feel like they missed out on something valuable. Now, the way I like to structure highlight recaps is pretty simple. Start with the establishing shots, the drone shots, the venue shots, city shots, maybe the event logo, maybe people walking in. Then you get into the meat and potatoes. Introduce the speakers, show the room, show people taking notes, show people reacting, show people networking, show the audience locked in. Then show the activities around the event, the food, the dinner, the city moments, the private experiences, the conversations, the emotion. Because the event is not just what happens on stage, it's the full experience. That is what people are buying. They're buying the room, they're buying the access, they're buying the environment, they're buying the energy, they're buying the feeling of being around serious people. So your highlight video needs to communicate that. This is why B-roll matters. This is why sound bites matter. This is why drone shots matter. This is why capturing the little moments matter, because all of those pieces become the ingredients for the recap. Now, personally, I consider myself one of the best when it comes into capturing mastermind events, because I'm thinking about all of this while I'm shooting. I'm not just grabbing random clips. I'm thinking, how is this going to open the recap? How is this going to transition into the speaker? How is this going to sell the room? How is this going to make the people want to attend the next one? How can I make this event feel like an experience? I will even fly the drone sometimes inside over people's heads, as long as it makes sense, you know, and it's safe to do it, just to get those creative shots. Most people are not thinking about that. Most creators, most videographers are not thinking about that. That is the level you want, because a highlight video is not something that's supposed to be boring. It should be clean, it should be fast, it should be emotional, it should be valuable, and it should make people want to share it. Now, in terms of length, most highlight recap videos should not be crazy long. Usually around 60 seconds is perfect. You're not making a documentary, you're creating a recap, a condensed video that captures the energy of the entire event. Something easy to post, easy to share, easy to send to everyone who has attended. Because after the event, this becomes a major engagement tool. You can share it with all the attendees, they can repost it, comment on it, they can send it to their team, they can tag themselves, they can relive the experience, and now the event gets a second wave of momentum online. But this is where speed becomes everything. If you wait 3 weeks to post that highlight video, you missed out on a ton of momentum, because people have already moved on. The emotion is not as strong, the conversations are not as fresh, the audience is not as engaged. It's the same principle as the photos. The faster you get it out, the more valuable it becomes. Now, there's levels to this. You can do same day edits, you can do next day edits, you can do 24 to 48 hour turnaround edits, or you can do the traditional route where the highlight video comes out, you know, a week or two later. But understand this, if you want speed, you have to pay for speed. Me personally, I charge a lot of money for same day edits or next day edits, because it takes a completely different level of plan and execution and bandwidth. You cannot expect one person to capture a full event, shoot photos, capture B-roll, record testimonials, handle podcast setups, fly the drone, and also delivered a polished same-day recap for cheap. Like, that's not realistic, especially not under $10,000 if you're expecting everything to be done at a high level. Now, the traditional way is to get a highlight video a few days after, maybe a week after the event. For me, that is a normal professional turnaround time. But in the industry, a lot of videographers may take weeks, and the longer they take, the more momentum you lose. So if I was you, Mr. Business Owner, I would pay extra for a 24 to 48 hour turnaround time on the highlight recap video. I also want you to look at this from a different perspective. Like, when the creators are still fresh from the event, they remember the energy, they remember the moments, they remember the clips that they captured. They know what happened, they felt the room. Everything is still firing at 100%. That is when the edit usually has the most substance. That is when the recap can feel the most alive. But just know, that type of speed costs more. For a next day edit, I can easily charge an additional $3,000 to $5,000 depending on the size of the event and what needs to be done. Because it is a premium service. You're not just paying for an edit, you are paying for momentum. You are paying to strike when the iron is hot. You are paying to get the content into the marketplace while people still care. Sometimes speed is more important than trying to make every single frame perfect. Now, don't get me wrong. The video still needs to look good, it still needs to sound good, it still needs to represent the brand properly. But if you spend 4 weeks fine-tuning every little detail, you have missed the best window to post. The marketplace rewards speed, the audience rewards speed, momentum rewards speed. So get a highlight video out, get the photos out, get the podcasts out, get the short form clips out, get the content into the marketplace as fast as possible. Now, here's another piece of game that I will give you. If you're using a photo delivery app like the one I mentioned earlier, now you have the attendees' contact information. So once the highlight recap video is posted on your Instagram or on your business Instagram, you can now SMS blast the entire link to everyone who has attended that event. Now, you're not just posting and hoping people see it. You are sending it directly to people who were in the room. They can like it, they can comment on it, they can share it, they can repost it, they can tag themselves, they can tag their friends. And now your recap gets more engagement because it's pushed to the people who are already emotionally connected to the event. My guy, this is strategy. This is how you extend the life of the event. This is how you create a second wave of momentum. This is how one event turns into marketing for the next one. So when you hire a videographer or a content team, understand this: the highlight video is not optional. It is one of the most important assets of the entire event. It should be planned before the event starts, it should be captured intentionally during the event, and it should be delivered fast after the event. Because the event happens once, but the highlight recap video is what keeps it alive. And if you do this correctly, your event does not just end when people leave the room. It keeps selling, it keeps building authority, it keeps creating engagement, and it keeps making people say, yo, next time, I need to be there. Now, number 8 might be the most important part of this entire blueprint, because it's one thing to capture the content, it's another thing to process the content. And if you do not understand this concept, you can waste the entire opportunity of the event. So let me give you an analogy, let me give you a story that can piece this all together. A few years back, I went hunting, and a lot of business principles and content principles I operate with came from that experience. So for the sake of making this simple, imagine you go hunting and you kill a big animal, right? A big deer, a bison, a cow, whatever you want to imagine. You went out, you hunted, you executed, and now you have this big, massive animal in front of you. But here's the thing. If you don't process that animal quickly, the meat spoils. And if the meat spoils, all of that effort goes to waste. You went hunting, you tracked it, you did all the work, you got the kill, you got the animal, but because you didn't process it correctly and quickly, you lost the value. So that is exactly how content works after a mastermind event. Your event is the big animal. You just spent all of this money to bring people into one room. You captured the presentations, you captured the B-roll, you captured the testimonials, you captured the podcast conversations, you captured the photos, you captured the drone shots, you captured the sound bites, you captured the environment, you captured the entire experience. That is a massive, massive animal, but it needs to be processed. Because if all of the footage just sits on hard drives, unorganized, unlabeled, and untouched, it starts losing value. The momentum dies, the excitement dies, the emotion dies, the opportunity dies. Timing is everything. And it's not just about speed. It's about how the content is dissected. It's about how the content it is cut. Now, think about a cow. When you process a cow, you don't just call everything meat and throw it into one pile. No, you have different cuts. You have the ribs, you have ribeye, you have top sirloin, you have the skirt steak, you have the brisket, you have ground beef. You have different parts of the animal that serves different purposes. Content is the same way. Your event content cannot just be one big folder that says event footage. Yo, that's lazy. That's unprofessional. That creates confusion. The presentations are one cut of meat. The B-roll is another cut. The testimonials are another cut. The podcast interviews are another cut. The photos are another cut. The drone shots are another cut. The highlight video footage is another cut. Hopefully I haven't lost you guys with this analogy, but just understand organization is everything. The main job of the videographer is not to just record, it's to capture, organize, and deliver the content in a way that makes it usable. If your team cannot find the footage, they cannot edit the footage. If they cannot edit the footage, they cannot post the footage. If you have presentations, they need to be organized by the speaker. Let's say speaker number 1 had a 3-camera setup. The folder structure should be simple. Presentations, the speaker's name, camera angle 1, camera angle 2, camera angle 3. Then you have the audio and backup audio. Now, if your editor needs to find the presentation, they know exactly where to go to. They don't have to dig through 900 random different videos. They do not need to text the videographer asking, hey, where's the speaker 2 presentation? It should be obvious. The same thing with B-roll footage. The B-roll footage should be organized by the day. So for example, day 1 B-roll, day 2 B-roll, day 3 B-roll. That way, if your team is creating a day 1 recap, they know where the footage is. If they're creating a full event recap, they can pull from each day. If they need footage from a specific moment, they can find it faster. If you want to get even more premium with the organization, you can organize everything by speaker or by the guest. Let's say you have speaker number 1. Inside that speaker's folder, you can have their presentations, their podcast interview, their photos, their B-roll clips, and any other content connected to that person within that folder. Now, that is top tier, high level organization, because now if your team wants to create a full content package around that speaker, everything is in one place. Their talk, their clips, their photos, their podcasts, their behind the scenes, their B-roll. That is how you make the content easy to use. For podcasts, inside that folder, every interview should be organized by guest's name. Each podcast should have the camera angles, the main audio, the backup audio, and any behind the scenes, and any notes that matter. The same thing with testimonials. Testimonials should be organized by the name of the person giving the testimonial. Not one random clip. If John, for example, gave a testimonial, there should be a folder or a file labeled with John's name. If Maria gave a testimonial, label it Maria. If David gave a testimonial, label it David. That way, when your sales teams or editing team says, hey, where's that testimonial from Maria? You can find it immediately. The same thing goes for photos. Photos should be organized by day, by moment, or by category. Day 1 photos, day 2 photos, speaker photos, networking photos, VIP dinner photos, audience photos, behind the scenes photos, and drone footage to have its own folder too. You're not just dumping files. You're processing the animal. You're cutting it into usable pieces. And this is why I recommend business owners to build their own in-house editing team, because once you have all of this content organized properly, your in-house team can start moving. They can create clips, they can create reels, they can create ads, they can create YouTube videos, they can create email content, they can create recap videos, they can create landing paging assets, they can create sales content. This is what the biggest brands and entrepreneurs understand. When you look at people like Alex Ramosi, Patrick McDavid, and other high-level operators, they're not randomly creating content. They have internal systems, they have teams, they have editors, they have workflows. They have a machine that processes the content. And that is exactly why I created $1 Million Creator. I teach entrepreneurs how to build their own in-house media production team. how to build their studio setup, how to hire editors, how to process their content, how to create content with branding, authority, and speed. Because at the end of the day, content is not just about filming, it's about having a system. And if you don't have a system, you're gonna keep relying on random people to save you. And that's not how you scale. I just did an event in Austin, Texas for Chandler's Level Up event. The second I touched down in Miami, I started uploading everything. Within 4 hours, all of the content was uploaded. The presentations, the testimonials, the podcast, the photos, the B-roll, the drone footage, everything. So from the moment I got back, it was basically a 12-hour turnaround time from capture to raw footage delivered and accessible. See, that is the standard that I move with and that I operate in, and I strongly believe everyone in the industry, every videographer, every photographer should move like this. Like, this is the level, this is the standard. Because once the event is over, bro, the clock is ticking. The longer the videographer waits to upload, the more room there is for problems. Files can get misplaced, drives can get damaged, footage can be forgotten, the team loses momentum, the business owner starts waiting, the editors cannot move, the content gets delayed, and now the whole machine slows down because of one person. This is why raw footage delivery matters. This is why organization matters. This is why speed matters. Because the event may be over, but the content work is just beginning. And if the videographer does not upload the right files, organizes the folders, labels everything correctly, and makes it easy for your team to access, then they did not finish the job. They only did part of the job. Videographers, this is where you separate yourself. Do not just be the person who captures footage. Be the person who delivers order. Be the person who gives a client a clean system. Be the person who makes the editor's life easy. Be the person who understands that the footage is not valuable until it can be used. Because the faster the client can access it, understand it, and use it, the more valuable you become. That is how you become more than a videographer. You become a production partner. So remember the hunting analogy. The event is the big game, the content is the meat, and the organization is how you process it. If you process it correctly, you can feed the brand for weeks and months to come. If you don't, the content spoils and all of that opportunity goes to waste. So don't just capture the event, process the event, organize the event, deliver the event, and make sure every single piece of content is ready to be used the moment it hits the client's team. Now, if you guys made it all the way towards the end, you are part of the 20%. Comment down below on this video 20% to let me know that you've made it this far. I hope you got from this video the full breakdown of what it takes to host a real mastermind event.